What happens when a principal rejects a student because of her humble background? Well, the next day, his life is turned upside down when a private jet lands on campus, revealing a shocking truth about the student's family that no one could have expected. Sarah Jacobs had always been a quiet girl at Cedarbrook High School. The daughter of a hardworking farmer, she wasn't like the other students. While her peers wore the latest fashions and drove expensive cars, Sarah came to school in simple clothes, her hair often pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. Her father's farm was the backbone of their life, but it wasn't the lifestyle of the rich and privileged. Sarah didn't mind, she loved her family, and the farm had given her a strong sense of humility and hard work. However, she often felt out of place at Cedarbrook. The school, an elite institution, was filled with children from wealthy families, all of them seemingly perfect in their own way. Yet Sarah had always kept her head high. Her grades were good, she was well liked by her friends, and she had a quiet confidence that came from her upbringing. That was until the day she walked into Principal Duncan's office. She had always admired Principal Duncan for his professionalism, but there was a certain coldness to him that had always unsettled her. When she walked into his office that day, her heart was pounding. She had worked hard all semester on a college application, and today she was meeting with him to discuss her recommendation letter. But instead of the warm encouragement she expected, Principal Duncan looked at her coldly as he sat behind his desk. "Sarah," he began, his voice measured but stern, "I'm afraid I can't offer you the recommendation you were hoping for." Her heart sank. "But I've worked hard. I've kept my grades up. It's not about your grades, Sarah," he interrupted, his tone sharp. "It's about your background. You come from a farm. The college I'm recommending students to isn't looking for that kind of applicant. You need to understand that your family's status matters. The college wants students with a certain level of wealth, not, people like you." Sarah felt the sting of his words as if they were knives piercing through her confidence. She had never expected to be judged by her family's occupation. She tried to speak, to defend her father and their way of life, but the words wouldn't come. With a heavy heart, Sarah stood up and left the office, the weight of the rejection pulling her down. As she walked through the hallways, she couldn't help but feel the sting of humiliation. But she wasn't going to give up. She would find a way to prove him wrong. The next morning, as Sarah stood at the entrance of the school, a loud roar of engines filled the air. She turned around confused and saw something she never could have imagined. A private jet was landing on the school's grounds. It was sleek and shiny, a jet that belonged to someone incredibly wealthy. Sarah couldn't help but stare, her curiosity piqued. As the jet touched down, a few students gathered around, their excitement palpable. And then, to Sarah's shock, the door of the jet opened, and out stepped a woman. She was elegant, confident, and the epitome of grace. And there, standing beside her, was none other than Sarah's mother. Sarah stood frozen in place, her heart pounding in her chest. The sight of her mother stepping off that private jet was beyond anything she could have ever imagined. She had always known her mother was special, but this was something different. The students around her were whispering excitedly, staring at the jet with wide eyes. But Sarah's gaze was fixed on her mother, who was now walking confidently toward the entrance of the school, surrounded by a small group of staff members who seemed to be in awe of her presence. What was going on? Sarah's mind was spinning. Just yesterday, she had been rejected by Principal Duncan, her family dismissed as not good enough for the prestigious college she dreamed of attending. But now her mother, who had always seemed so humble, so grounded, was arriving in style, as if she belonged in a completely different world. As her mother approached, Sarah could feel the weight of the moment. She didn't know what to say or how to react. She had grown up with the understanding that their family wasn't rich. They had worked hard on the farm, and that was their reality. But seeing her mother here stepping out of a private jet made her question everything she had believed. Her mother smiled warmly as she spotted Sarah in the crowd, and for a moment the tension in the air seemed to dissipate. "Sarah, sweetheart, I'm so glad to see you," she said with a gentle tone, her voice warm and reassuring. But there was something different about her demeanor today, more composed, more polished. Sarah struggled to find her voice. Mom, what's going on? Why are you here? And why is the jet here? She couldn't keep the confusion from spilling out. She had so many questions, and none of them made sense. Her mother's smile faltered for a moment, and she gently took Sarah's hand. There's a lot I need to explain, sweetheart, she said softly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening too closely. But let's talk somewhere private. I never wanted you to find out this way. Sarah followed her mother to a quiet corner of the school courtyard, away from the growing crowd of students. The reality of the situation was hitting her, and she wasn't sure she was ready for what her mother was about to say. Once they were out of earshot of everyone, her mother turned to her, taking a deep breath. Sarah, I haven't been entirely honest with you. Your father and I, we didn't just build the farm. We've been involved in something much bigger, something you were too young to understand. Sarah blinked in disbelief. What do you mean? Her mother hesitated, then spoke in a low, careful voice. Your family isn't just a farming family, Sarah. Your father and I come from a long line of wealthy business people who've kept our wealth hidden for years. The farm has always been a front for something much more valuable. Your father and I have been involved in a network of successful ventures that no one outside of our circle knows about, and now it's time for you to know the truth. The words hung in the air, and Sarah could barely process what her mother was saying. Her family had been living a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. The farm, the modest lifestyle, they were just a facade. Behind it all, her parents had been hiding their true wealth. Why didn't you tell me? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Why did you let me think we were just a poor farming family? Her mother looked at her with regret in her eyes. We didn't want you to grow up with the pressure of knowing what we really do. But now, with your future at stake, it's time for you to understand. You're not just any student, Sarah. You're part of a legacy that goes beyond this farm, beyond this school, and it's time for you to embrace it. Sarah's mind was racing, her emotions in turmoil. She had always believed that her family's life was simple, built on hard work and dedication to the land. But the truth her mother had just revealed had shattered everything she thought she knew. Are you saying we're not just farmers? Sarah asked, still struggling to understand. Her mother nodded solemnly, the weight of her words heavy in the air. No, sweetheart. Your father and I have always been part of a much larger network, a powerful legacy that stretches back generations. The farm was just our cover. It was never about the crops or the animals. It was about keeping our true identity hidden. Sarah stood in silence, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. All those years she had spent working the farm with her father, feeling proud of their simple, honest life. It had all been an act. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. A legacy, a powerful network. Her mother gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I know this is a lot to take in, but it's time you understood what you're a part of. The rejection from Principal Duncan, it wasn't just about your grades or your background. It was about your potential, Sarah. You're not just a regular student. You come from a family with influence, and it's time for you to step into that world. Sarah's heart pounded. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Her mother smiled gently, her eyes filled with pride. You've always had the strength, Sarah. You've always worked hard, and that's the heart of this legacy. It's about hard work, but also about using the resources we have to create change. You can be more than just a student. You can be part of something that will leave a lasting impact. A mix of fear and excitement began to bubble within Sarah. Her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even begin to imagine. The rejection she had felt just yesterday now seemed so insignificant in comparison to the opportunities that lay before her. She wasn't just the daughter of a farmer anymore. She was part of a powerful legacy, one that could open doors she had never dreamed of. Your mother is right, a voice called from behind them. Sarah turned to see Principal Duncan walking toward them, his face slightly flushed. I didn't realize the full scope of your family's background, Sarah. I owe you an apology for the way I treated you. Sarah's eyes narrowed, the sting of his rejection still fresh in her mind. It's not about your apology, she said firmly. It's about seeing the truth. As Principal Duncan stood there, humbled, Sarah turned to her mother, determination setting in. I'm ready, she said quietly, her voice steady and sure. "I'm ready to embrace this legacy and see where it takes me." Her mother's smile grew wider. "That's my girl.